So I know I'm no George Clooney, but I got the George Clooney watch. There's actually another celebrity that wears this watch as well, and that's Hyunbin, who is a Korean actor. And does it make me feel like a super famous rich actor? No, but it is an amazing watch and it looks great on the wrist, and I love that I added this to my collection. Before we get going, if you could please help support the channel by subscribing and also by hitting that notification icon so that you know when I've uploaded my next video. So why don't we get started? I guess before we get there, just one thing about this watch, I did have to wait a little bit to get this watch. When it first was announced, I thought it was very interesting. So this watch came in blue, burgundy, and green. My favorite color is blue, and so I wanted the blue version. After I requested the watch from my AD, they said that I would most likely get it by the end of the year just because the demand was so high. And they even said, thanks, George Clooney, because he's endorsing this watch, and so a lot of people want it because he's endorsing this watch. That's not the reason why I got this watch. I actually got it because I like the color, I like the look of the Speedmaster 57, which has that vintage kind of vibe to it, and the color of the dial is just amazing. So why don't we get going with the unboxing so I can show you what this watch looks like. One thing that I learned is that Omega watches actually come in a cardboard box. And then inside is how the watch is transported. Now we get to the actual box. Omega boxes are unmatched, I think. At least from the boxes that I have in my collection. Omega takes the cake. Their boxes are super solid, very nice, good feel. I also like the way that it's organized. We have the operating instructions, and then we have a holder for these cards, which is the pictograms, which tells you all the features of the watch. And then we can look at the next card, which tells you that this is Master Chronometer certified. So what you can do with this is actually you can download an app on your phone and you can just tap it on your phone. There's an NFC chip in here and you can see all of the test results for your watch in terms of all the measurements like water resistance testing to accuracy. It's pretty cool and fun to nerd out on. And then of course you have the warranty card. Then we have the operations manual. Cool. So now let's take a look inside the box. Here we have the Speedmaster 57. So gorgeous. This is the blue dial. The bracelet on this is very comfortable. It tapers. It feels very light. I really like this vintage Omega symbol on here. The buckle is a little bit smaller than normal, or I guess compared to other buckles on Speedmasters, but this is the vintage style. So the dial in that light looks so nice. The date wheel is color matched, which I really appreciate. We have the sub dials that also have that same blue color. We have the tachymeter around the outside. We have the chronograph function, and then we have an exhibition case back. This is a manually wound watch. Let's wind it up and we can take a look at the escapement. So one thing about winding manual watches is that as you wind it, you'll start to feel resistance. You want to be careful not to overwind manual watches because unlike automatic watches that are a bit more forgiving because you cannot overwind automatic watches, you need to be a little bit sensitive when you're winding this watch. So I've been reading around online. They say like 40 to 50 winds is about where you want to be. As you wind the watch, you'll actually start to feel that resistance and you'll get to a point where it's a little apparent on where you need to stop. But when you feel a lot of resistance, don't push it too far. Otherwise, you might break the winding mechanism and you will have to send it in for a pretty expensive service. Here we've got the chronograph function. This is not a flyback chronograph, so you'll need to stop and then reset. Why don't we go ahead and measure the dimensions of the watch? This is supposed to be a 40.5 case diameter, and I see 40.5. Check out the thickness. The thickness is at 12.9. For a manually wound watch, it is a little bit on the thicker side, but it feels quite nice, so I give it a pass. Lug to lug is 49 millimeters. In between the lugs is 20 millimeters. And then let's see what the taper is. So the taper starts at 19.5 millimeters, goes down to 15 millimeters. So it's a pretty good taper. It feels very nice on the wrist. The only downside for me is that because it's a smaller buckle, when I put it on my wrist, I have to squeeze it through. It's a small gripe, but it's still an amazing watch and it feels great. If we look under the buckle, we do have a micro adjust. So I can go in one or I can pop it out. So there is a little bit of adjustment here, which is great. The loom on this watch is pretty decent. Take a look. You've got this greenish kind of loom. You have it on the hands. You have it on the hour markers. On the 3 and 9, it's a little bit small, but because the subdials are there. Same with the 6 because the date window is there. But all in all, pretty solid loom. In the dark, you shouldn't have a problem telling what time it is. Take a look at how heavy the watch is. So it's about 131 grams with the bracelet. Okay. So as far as accuracy, that's interesting. This watch is running a bit fast. It's running about +6 to +7 seconds a day. It's a little bit more off than I thought it would be, but interesting. Why don't we throw it on the wrist and take a look? There is the Speedmaster 57 with the blue dial. This is the George Clooney watch. Let me know what you think about this watch. Leave me a comment and give me your thoughts about the Speedmaster 57 and if this watch is worthy of George Clooney. If you like this content, please like and subscribe, and I will see you next time.